Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Good morning, good evening, namaste, hola, bonjour, gere maid, and maharapan. This is Namya Joshi, your host for the day. Welcome to episode 60 of the podcast. Each one, each ten, an amazing world of STEM, an inspiring venture where we'll be discussing that STEM is part of every day for every kid. We all will learn together how to build a STEM culture. Well, guess who is my guest for the day? Oh, well, here he is, Mr. Manny Curiel. Hello.
Hello. I
It's
love
really
the
great to
intro.
have you today. How are you
I'm
doing?
fabulous. Yes.
That's so great. So, before we start, I would like to give a short intro about him. And started as a regular primary teacher, Manny Curiel has had an outstanding leaders in his career that have pushed him to become a better version of himself. He taught himself how to integrate technology into his classroom, and currently he's part of the global community at Edpuzzle. He's empowering educators with easy to use, powerful software to make their next video lesson with Edpuzzle's engaging learning experiences. So that's pretty great.
You couldn't say it any better. This is amazing. Yes. Best introduction ever.
Thank you. And I think we would love to know more about you and the work you're doing and what's upcoming for you.
I'm sorry. I got distracted by Anne. What was that question again?
Sure. I was saying that I would love to know more about you and the
Oh,
work you're doing right now.
yes. So I came to this country about 23 years ago, not knowing any English, and it was rough. I studied in culinary, and then I had a backpack, and then I went into teaching because I remember this one girl when I was back in Mexico, where I'm from. I was teaching them the colors and the days of the week, and she looked at my eyes and she said, "Yellow." I'm like, ah, so that those eyes stuck with me. So I transferred all my credits into education, and started teaching little kids. I am a child. I love little kids. I'll be in the carpet learning with them, teaching them. uh, I just love being with them, but I struggled in the beginning because I didn't know anything about the English language. I was learning with the kids. The parents really had connections with me because I'm a honey. I know exactly how you're feeling, with the English, struggling together and other things. But when you have those connections with your students, it's just makes it more meaningful. So it's like I was growing along with them. And then I discovered Twitter, which if you're not on Twitter, honey, I need to tell you, like the viewers, OMG. Yeah, that opened the world to me. I started doing Flip and at Puzzle. Those were like my main ones, and the rest is history. People were like, "Who is this person who is tweeting about this?" Tools that I was using together. Then I went into the ethic department of my school district. I was there for a couple of years, and then I just transferred to the ethic world, and I work for Edpuzzle, empowering every teacher.
That's really great.
Yeah,
That you're talking about how children motivate you to teach, and then connections with students is what motivated you to start teaching. And here you are at Edpuzzle. That's really
yes,
nice.
yes, it's great because in the beginning, you with teachers, I've seen it because I felt it myself. We don't think we're good enough, that we don't put the value on ourselves. But then eventually I start seeing like my team wanted to know what I was doing. Then the teachers
Right.
around my school wanted to know what I was doing. Then eventually it was the whole school district. And then that kind of tells you like, yeah, kind of like I was doing something that it was helping other people. And now I do it globally. It's like I go around the world, visiting teachers, supporting them, loving on them, and then just tell them how amazing they are. I love
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I guess we can also see some of the people. Oh, there are many. So like there's Miss Monica here. She's excited to be here, and there's
it.
also you here who's very ready to be here. And we have Mr. Frank Moody. Thank you so much for joining. Each one teach 10. And who else? Oh, we also have Amanda joining us. Thank you so much for joining, Amanda. We
Oh, I
have
love Anne. Like honestly, like when I was a teacher, I'm like, what would Anne do? What would she say? And I always channel my Anne Cosma. Just like all the love in the world.
that's really great.
Kindergarten teacher and first grade teacher. We are very alike.
That's nice. It's really nice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining. And thank you so much for joining Miss Elizabeth Polo. It's really great to have you here. And okay, let's start with the first question for you. And
Yes.
as we were talking about Edpuzzle, first of all, I would love to know from you what exactly is Edpuzzle?
So Edpuzzle is a video response platform in where teachers can use any video they have, or they can upload, or they can use a video online, meaning YouTube. They can add interactions because normally what teachers use, they all use videos in the classroom. Like if you're a teacher and you're watching this, you use videos in your classroom. But when you assign them to your students, either through a link or an LMS, you don't know if they watched it or they didn't. You don't know if they'll learn anything out of it because you have no idea. When you put it in our platform, you can track it. It tells you when, how long, and if they learn anything by the interactions that you can embed into the video. So the video will stop, and then you can have either a comment. We recommend to put a comment in the beginning of the video so the students know the purpose of the video and the why of that lesson. And then you can record your voice because most likely they won't read or they can't read. So you put the audio voice into it and then it reads it to them. You have open-ended questions where you have, that's what the rigor is. You put scenario and then kids have to explain to you the reasoning, why or and what else. They can also respond with audio. There's multiple choice. You can have images or a GIF in the question. So even if they're young readers and young learners that don't know how to read, so you can read the questions to them, and then the answer choices can be pictures or animations, right? When I taught first, I will put like a little stuffed animal, and it says like, okay, so it is outside, inside, above, under it, just because they need to see it. So it is K through 12, even for university grade. It's for everyone. The grading, all the analytics that they give you, it is OMG the best thing ever. Because instead of teaching whole group like to the middle of the class, I've seen teachers, and this is what I did. I put all my lessons into Edpuzzle, and the program will sift students, and it will tell you, based on the analytics, how to pull the small groups. So instead of teaching everybody at the same time, you put the lesson in Edpuzzle, short lesson, because nobody wants to watch a 20-minute video. And then to pull your high kids first, 2 minutes and so forth. And then you pull the kids who are in the yellow, right? Like bubble kids. And then that is a different lesson. Then you pull your red kids who Hot Mess Express has no idea what they're doing. That is a very different lesson from your green kids that they know what to do. And then that way, you're not stressed out. The kids are not lost or bored because you're able to differentiate learning based on data. It's amazing. It's the best thing ever.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I really loved how you talked about it being a video response platform where you can add like interactions, track how much students are learning, and understand the purpose and why of the lesson. And like when you mentioned about like questions and the options being in form of GIFs and images, that is what fascinated me a lot because we usually see the answers like in text based, but adding the answers like in images and GIFs is what attracts the students because they can see it, and that's exactly what attracts the students' attention. And I really like the concept of how you put the lesson Edpuzzle and attract students according to how they learn. Like you mentioned about yellow and the red, so that's really amazing.
Yes, it's very easy to see because it's color coded. So when you put the kids through that lesson, which would have been your whole group, that way you teach to the middle, right? But then you cater to whoever is in front of you in your small group. And that is, the teacher will never be replaced by technology. It is the most important aspect of teaching. But that's when you need to be differentiating, right? Based on what the program or the tool is helping you. In this case, Edpuzzle. But I love it because when I was a student and I didn't know English, I wish my teacher would have recorded their lessons because they go so fast and they love their content so much that they think we understand everything, which we don't.
Exactly.
Then, especially if you're students, like I had first, second graders, third graders, one year. They're going through a lot of things at home or emotionally. They're learning about emotions, and if they're not emotionally right at that moment, they're not learning. Even if they're
Yeah.
hungry, because you don't know if they ate breakfast. Well, they ate breakfast at school, but like you don't know what's happening in their lives. My kid says, "Oh, she told me he doesn't want to be my friend anymore," and the world ended. They're not learning. So if you put it in a video, they could learn later. They can pause and watch it again. If they want to go to the
Yeah.
bathroom, you don't miss anything. So when I went to college and I was going, for education, I couldn't go anywhere. Like my focus had to be like to the teacher or I will lose it. So recording lessons, it really opens up the door to have the students own their learning because they can go back and watch it over and over and over again as a refresher or as a scaffolding because you have to listen to it more than once, especially if you're a language learner over and over again. I'm like, oh, when you watch a movie for a second or a third time, there's things you're like, oh, I missed that the first time. So you give that to your students. That's amazing. If you are a secondary teacher, usually they tell me, oh, one more thing to do. I don't want to record my lessons. I don't know. They give you all this kind of my honey. It's unfair that if you have 4 periods that you teach the same thing and then 2 other periods that you teach something else, you're not going to give the same lesson to the same kids. Usually you do one amazing lesson because you repeat yourself over and over again. You're going to miss things out. And that's not fair for a student that not get that amazing lesson just because this is the 4th time you do it. But if you
Mhm.
record a lesson, everybody gets the same amazing lesson. And then you pull them based on data. And then it's just like the best thing ever. It's just making educated decisions based on data rather than a test score that it's like 2 weeks old, that it's no longer relevant.
Absolutely. Like, when we are talking about the classroom setting, students always have to, like you mentioned, keep up with the pace of the class of the teacher, and that can be challenging for many of them. But like when you're using like e-learning or with Edpuzzle, like you've mentioned, students can learn and study at their own speed. Like they can revisit the material as often as they need to. And I think that's when we have the flexibility where we can promote better understanding, also the retention of the course material.
Yep. Yeah, I've seen teachers that when you have a student who's struggling, they said, I'm giving you the lesson for tomorrow today. So watch it in advance. So when you're here and we're talking about it, you kind of are familiar with with the words and the terms and all of those things. And they tell me like that was a big difference. Sometimes you do differentiate, like you'll record like 2 videos, like one for a group and one for another group. Like I've seen teachers that do multiple things, but the way to start is just record the same lesson that you would have done just in a video.
Absolutely. And like people are also talking about like hearing the international influence is the key, and meet them where they are, love this use of tech. And I learned from repetition. That's amazing.
Yep. Because I remember when we were watching, I don't know, a recipe in Instagram that is like super fast. You watch it a couple of times. I'm like, wait, what was it? Let me see that again. And kids learn the same way. When we bought this new fridge, I didn't know where the water filter was. And what do? We go to YouTube and watch a video, and then you watch it a couple of times until you figure it out. And it's the same thing. When you record a video in a way that you put your students to struggle just a little bit, it makes them feel like they'll discover their own learning rather than me telling them everything. And that it's attached to this feeling of pride. And it just sticks. They'll remember, hey, I figured that out, rather than me spewing everything that I know because I love language arts or I love math. And I'm just telling you all the things. That doesn't.
Right.
So like let them struggle a little bit, and just by the
Mhm.
interactions that Edpuzzle has, like the open-ended question is like, well, what do you think? And
Right.
what else do you think this is? It's
Mhm.
it's that's what the juice is. It's amazing.
Absolutely. And as you're talking about students, I would like to ask you that how can educators engage students using Edpuzzle?
So I've seen teachers use Edpuzzle in multiple ways. Um, Obviously, it will be for content, right? So they will put all their lessons there, and they'll add either multiple choice or open ended questions. Um, I've seen teachers when you stop on a video, they will put a note first, and they tell them why are they stopping. Did you notice this? Did you notice that? Did you pay attention to this? And if not, there's a button that you can go back and rewatch just that one section. And then after you make the students think, then they click next and there's a question. So they stop, reflect, and then they ask one or two questions. And they do this because kids really don't know how to learn from a video. Even adults don't know how to learn from a video. They just watch the whole thing and I'm like, what did you learn? I'm like, no, honey, you need to break it down into pieces. Even if it's a 4-minute video, it's a lot of new content. Like when I'm learning, well, math, like, because I'm talking to other teachers about math, I'm like, it is not my thing. So if you give me a 4-minute video of new content, it's already above my head. So you have to break it down into small chunks, and that's the thing. Like breaking it down, make him think and reflect by a note. And if you don't know, then like remember this class, and you put a link, and then you send the student to this one short video or or a picture or a graphic or anything. And then they come back, and then they can answer that question. I've also seen teachers teach emotions in Edpuzzle. Like they will put a section of a picture of a illustration, a book, a cartoon, and says like, "Have you ever felt this way?" Look at their eyes. Look at pay attention to the tone of voice. Have you ever felt this way? And it will be like an open-ended question. I've also seen teachers that because there's a lot of things that happen in the school, you don't really have a time to spend and talk to your students, so they put it in an Edpuzzle. It just says like, how are you doing today? Is there anything I can help you with? Do you want to tell me anything? Is there anything that you want me to know? It used to be a thing I wish my teacher knew, and it was written. So this is video. They can even, I mean, it's a video that the teacher will say, they'll have, but then the student can respond with audio. And it's an outcry because sometimes you don't really need to do anything. Just this student, they just need to say it and let it out, and the teacher can just like pat him like, I got you, like I know how you feel, you know. So yes, it could be used in multiple ways. And then I see another question later on, we're going to talk about student projects, which we haven't talked about that. But lots of different ways to interact with students, with gamification, which is the next question. I've seen teachers use a graph, like a picture, like an infographic, and they can add links to open classes in where open-ended question, no, multiple choice question on the feedback. When they click the right question, it automatically gives you the feedback, and it could be a picture, which will be a letter of a word or a number. And then that way they get a code, either a word or a number code to solve, a riddle or the next code for the escape, or whatever thing that you're doing. But it's fun. Edpuzzle could be used in a lot of different ways depending on how you design that lesson.
Right. It's totally inspiring, like the way they informed us about how, teachers can add their lessons or questions. And I totally love the concept for adding notes. Like, did you notice that? To remind them about the important concept, because I totally can understand, like, when we're watching an entire, like, 4 or 5 minutes video, we don't remember everything. Like, something that might catch our eye, but not everything can be remembered, even if it's an important thing. So, like you've mentioned, break it down, listen carefully, think and reflect. And like you mentioned about like open-ended question, like have you ever noticed you felt something in school, where students can express their emotions, and if there's something that they have deep inside, they can share that thoughts with the teachers. Because I've always felt like teachers and counselors are always there to listen to you, and you can share your emotions with them. And similarly, like you mentioned about like links and graphics to give out feedback, that's another great thing at Edpuzzle.
Yep. Especially if they're like little kids that they just get excited about. Yeah, I got it right, and it's immediate. Like if it's a multiple choice, it's immediate answer. Like you click next, and it automatically grades it. And if the teacher click on feedback, you can either have a word or you can put a picture or an animation saying like, "Yeah, you got it," and kids get really excited.
That's amazing. We're
Yeah,
having more comments coming in, like the Clippers TV and just back this early summer. Love the session as always. Thank you so much.
yeah.
And we have challenge equals success.
Mhm.
Discover their own learning. And is saying, so true, the power of video transforms so much and provides that additional support from learners who benefit from multiple views or the supports hearing someone else speak fluently, etc. So many ways.
That's how like language teachers use Edpuzzle. They will have like a conversation, and the video will stop, and then it will be an open-ended question, so the student can like, okay, so continue the conversation. And it I have when people are taking the Edpuzzle trainer, I am forcing them to record their voice. Like I'm listening to people's voice all over the world. It is amazing to hear the tone of voice, because do they sound confident? Do they really know what they're saying? That tells you something.
Exactly.
Do they seem like, are they sure? Are they this and that? You know your students, so you know, you can say a lot of things just by the tone of voice, and
Mhm.
it just it's a different feeling. I know some people get shy about it. I'm like, it's for you kids. It's for you kids.
Absolutely. Uh, I think Miss Monica's talking about like I learned from pause and practice and learn. That's really nice.
Yep, I've seen it with the especially with the step by step. Ooh baby, with STEM. Um, you like you start working on a project and you say like, does yours look like mine, kind of thing, and then but you stop at a period, and then you click continue, and then you model, you put more pieces, or you continue working on a circuit or something, and then but you're making them pause, and then we'll continue, kind of thing. I've seen science teachers do exactly that circuits, and before they even start building their circuits, because it's expensive, like the pieces and the paper and all the wires, it's expensive, so they have to go through the electrical first, and then they'll tell you where does the energy go through, like does it go this way or does it go that way. And I've seen it that they use gifs that way. How is the electricity going to be flowing? So they have to go through that first, and then they build it. So it's like, so they are not wasting pieces.
Absolutely. And I heard you mentioning about, quizzes or like using graphics for the questions. So, coming to my next question for you, I would like to ask you that how can Edpuzzle be used in assessment and evaluation in the classroom?
So lately, I've seen teachers use it, especially with because now it's testing season here in the U.S. Like state testing is happening like next week. So for the last couple of weeks, I've seen teachers that use like passages, like reading passages, and they model that. So instead of reading that section like story to the students, they just go directly into the question, and they're modeling it. They go back into the paragraph and they underline and they say, this is why this is the answer, this is the word that tells you that this is the correct answer, and they go question by question, and they're modeling that to students, so they get familiarized with the strategy of going back, providing evidence of why this is the right answer, like matching the words from the question. That's something that even my students struggle. So I've seen my son's teacher and the other teachers, I've seen them do that. Just practice, practice, practice with the test, like because as sadly it is, they have to pass the test. But um, it's just getting them used to answering questions, either open-ended or multiple choice. But I've also seen teachers that just like read books and they put it in a puzzle just for the love of reading, just because they don't have parents that either cannot read English or they don't have time to read to their students. So I've seen teachers that just put it in there and then just have access to all these books. But supporting students in an environment that feels like a test, it's helpful because they're going to go through it. So the fact that you have to pause and then answer the question, kind of thing. In the beginning, teachers just record their the video lesson, and they do most of the work. Once they get familiar with the program, we recommend to do the I do, you do model, in where the teacher models everything, right? A couple of problems, modeling everything. The teacher does everything for the students. And then the next set of videos will be like, I do a section, and then I ask you a question, what's next? And then you do something. And then you saw me completing the problem, and then I ask you another question. So it's together. We're working through this together. And then the next set of questions is, I ask you a question and you do everything. You have a little whiteboard, or you do a little something on your table with a dry erase marker or notes, and the student is working through the problem on their own. And then at the end, they just select the right question. So it's teaching the students to let go of all the support that the teacher is doing by scaffolding in the beginning, like giving them support, and then taking away that support. Again, it's how you design the lesson and the questions. That's the key. And in the beginning, you're going to do everything for them, which is fine. But then later on, when you get familiar with the program, is designing the lesson. It's where the meat is, like letting them do themselves, because they need to be working on it, not us. So at the end of the day, they're tired and not us.
Absolutely. And talking about, like you've mentioned, reading passages, like, using modeling the question, and talking about like why the answer is this, I can totally understand that. And like, you're talking about supporting students in an environment that is full of, competition and tests. That is the most helpful thing. And the idea of I do, you do is like, when you're modeling everything, I do something, and then there's a question, and then you do something, and then ask another question.
Yeah.
And then I ask a question, you do everything. I totally love that idea, because you knowing how to design the entire thing, and at the same time you're engaging students as well as making sure they understand the concept and you know how much they know. So that's amazing.
Yep. So eventually, it even gets to the point that the student will be the one creating the lesson, because now that we're moving into, well, I'm already jumping into the next question. The student projects, it is like our creation part. Like it's no longer like just sitting and getting, even though you're not just getting, because you're interacting with the video, you're taking notes, doing graphs, doing doodles or whatever as you're processing the information. But the student project is the student gives the ability to the student. This teacher gives the ability to the student. I think I said student to student. See, English is not working with me. The teacher assigns this project to the student, and the student can either use a YouTube video, or they can create their own video and upload it into Edpuzzle and create a lesson based on whatever they learn or whatever it is that the teacher wants to do. So the student needs to be thinking about the questions. Where are they putting those stops? If it's going to be like a showcase of this is what I learned in this unit, they can add their audio notes, their own questions. And I've seen these done. When I went to bed, we went to several schools. It was this teacher who assigned science projects to students, and they were teaching the class through an Edpuzzle that the student had created. It was great. Like the kids were laughing, obviously, because they get shy, but kids were learning from other kids, and that's an authentic audience. And it puts the kid into the teacher of the role, and they will never forget that, again, because there's an emotion attached to it, and they'll remember that.
Absolutely. And that's how I think of how we can empower student voice, because they're creating lessons for students, and like again, like it's made by students for students and teachers. That's amazing.
Yep. And it's private because it's a video made by students. It's automatically private. Only the teacher has access to it, and the teacher and the classes that the teacher has. So me as a teacher can assign it to you if you're my student, but I cannot share that video with anybody. Only my classes, which is great because it's privacy of the students,
Absolutely.
right? So we take care of all
Right.
of those things.
That's amazing.
Yes.
All right. So I also wanted to, ask you a fun question. That is, which is your favorite cartoon character?
I love Sailor Moon. And there's a new movie that just came out with Sailor Moon Silver Crystal. Crystal is like, oh my god! And then I'm going to Tokyo in a month. I am so excited. I get to buy me all the things Sailor Moon. Yeah,
That's amazing.
very much.
That's amazing. Awesome.
Grew up with
We
it.
also have like more comments coming in. When students teach, they truly own their learning. Absolutely.
Mhm.
I agree with that. We have sarcastic here. That's my brother. I know you say is such a great approach, as it is going to help both the students and the educator, and also making him or her learn many life skills. And it can also be done in such a fun way.
Yep. Yep. Because it prevents the teacher from talking. And like, you need to let the kids do and talk and say what they're learning, rather than me giving you everything, which is what my
Absolutely.
teacher did with me. I'm like, could you let me explain it in my own words to see if I understand? Let me tell myself if I got this right, kind of thing. And then you get feedback from your coworkers, right? From your peers,
Right.
your students, and that you will never forget that. So like having projects, it's important to just let go. Like it's hard. I remember as a teacher, like you don't want to let go of the me owning of the control of the classroom. I'm like, honey, you don't have control of the classroom anyways. Let the kids work.
Absolutely. All right. So I guess you did answer the next question, but I would again like to ask you, um, can you share one example of how we can use Edpuzzle in game-based learning, STEM, or any other teaching methodology?
So yeah, I think I mentioned this, but I've seen teachers use a graphic and they put an open class in it, which an open class meaning that you don't have to have an account. And they use this whenever it's like for the whole school. So either it's teachers or parents, they may or not may have an account, but they get the whole experience of Edpuzzle. So it will be, think of a picture. This one teacher used the Disney World map, and in each of the worlds they were putting like little clues for different numbers. And when they get the question right from the Edpuzzle and the feedback, you will get a number. And then that was the code to open up the lock. And inside the lock was like tons of candy for the kids. So they
That's
have fun
amazing.
are reviewing for the test kind of thing. But it was in front of the parents. So the important of this is the parent is listening to the vocabulary and how the teacher is explaining. So when it comes to this homework, then the parent is not frustrated because my son tells me this is not how my teacher does it. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I taught this. He's like, yeah, but we don't do this anymore. We don't do it like that anymore. So it's great whenever you hear it from the teacher, like you're able to support the students in the way that they're being taught. So that's important. So I'm not frustrated, my child's not frustrated, and the teacher's not frustrated. It's that. So record your lessons, but using that ability of the feedback, it's where they use the game parts.
Absolutely. You know, graphics is like the entire experience of Edpuzzle. I agree with that. And like when parents, like you said, listen to the vocabulary, like you mentioned, like everyone is in good terms. Like students are learning, teachers are able to teach, and parents are there listening to what students are doing, and the homework is being done as well. So that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, because my son asked me questions about math, and I'm like, I taught this. I know how to do this. And then I will call my friend that works in district office. Is like, yeah, we don't teach it like that anymore. I'm like, oh my god, then how am I supposed to help my son? I don't know. But when the teacher records their video, then I'm able to follow it with using the same vocabulary and the same terminology. It is very helpful. So videos, show me how,
Absolutely.
help them.
Win.
Yes.
All right. So I have had a lot of fun talking to you, and it feels really sad. But again, this is the last question for you. How can Edpuzzle be used by educators for the professional development?
So just as you would do it with your students in like where you're collecting information, like all the knowledge, the way I've seen teachers use it and the way I use it when I was in the district office is you will put all your videos, all your tutorial videos into an Edpuzzle class. And I'll show them like how to use Flip, how to use OneNote, how to use Google, Drive, and all the things. So I will create a class, and when I was teaching the teachers how to do these things, and I will put questions in the middle, like, okay, how were you able to do this? Are you able to share it, outside your network or not, kind of thing, like to check their understanding. So this way, one, if they're present, because did they take the class? Did they complete it, all the videos? I'm not so picky into like, do they get 100? But it's like, are they understanding, the process of how this program works? At the end of the module of the class of whatever app I was teaching them, it was a student project, and I will ask them, how are you using this tool in your classroom, or how is this going to help you in your classroom? Like, show me in the process of how did you create an account, how are you going to deploy it to your students. Like, I wanted to hear their thought process, and it could be like a 2-minute video. Everything is in one place. Like, I know if they attended or not, I know if they learned, and I have a product at the end. So this is like the best thing ever. I've seen principals use this for, instead of meeting monthly in the cafeteria for a staff meeting, they will do it here. So I told my principal, like, why don't you just put it in a video in an Edpuzzle? That way if they're watching or not. Because when you're in the cafeteria, trust, we're on our phones, chit-chatting, we're not paying attention. But if you put it in an Edpuzzle, because you can track it. And they hated me because now they're accountable of watching this video. But you can use it to train the staff. You can use it to train, teachers. I have companies that have asked us to, they purchase the product because they want to turn internally their employees about the new hires or product. Like whenever they buy a panel or whatever product they do, they put all their trainings into Edpuzzle and then they give it to their clients. It's the ability to track it, pause the video, and then making sure that they're following, the instructions. But everything in one place.
Amazing. That's really substantial, that you're putting all the videos in Edpuzzle, and you're basically using the same method to evaluate the teacher, because you'll be able to understand, how the tools are being used by them, and to make sure that they're clear. And I really like this staff meeting idea. Like, you can exactly do that on Edpuzzle and track like how they're understanding and how much they're, attending the meetings, and how they're using Edpuzzle for engaging the students. And like when they're able to do that, basically they're developing their skills, and that basically is leading to professional development.
Yep, I really, really love Edpuzzle, and especially because all our features are free. What we limit teachers is in the amount of video lessons they can have, but because we don't want teachers to pay for this, we give them the ability to upgrade their storage. Like when they create a free account and they click on their little circle with have their profile, there's a button that says get more storage, and we give them a code. If you run out of storage, when you share your code, you get more lessons. I got a lot of buy-in because teacher says, I love it, Manny. But then when I run out of space, then what do? I'm like, well, find you a friend and you get more storage. Because when schools have teachers are using it, it's most likely that the school will pay for it. They have money. They don't mind paying it, but they want to make sure that someone is like the teachers are using it. But we don't limit on features. Everything's free except for the storage. But there's a way to get more storage when you refer teachers.
All right.
It's a win-win.
Yeah, that's a win-win again.
Yes.
To be honest, it's amazing talking to you today, Mr. Manny. And in the end, I would just like to ask you where we can find you online. And also, we would love to have a message from you for the audience watching us live today.
Well, you can find me. Here's my name, Manny Discotheque, because it's fun. I am on Twitter, Instagram, and then yeah, I mean, I'm active in social media. I am the community person. So if you become an Edpuzzle coach, I am the one that runs the Facebook coach group. Like you'll see my face and just doing all kinds of shenanigans there. But my message would be, I feel like recording their lessons is important. Like students really need to hear from the teacher. I know sometimes YouTube looks amazing, it's already edited, but students learn better from their teacher. They want to hear their tone of voice, their humor. Like when I recorded a video on my living room, everybody remember that because it was a different scenario. It was a different place. I had fingers because I was eating Takis, I was chips, and my hands were on fire. Everybody remember that lesson just because it was different, right? So recording your lessons is really going to impact the learning from your students. It does not need to be a Hollywood production, but you're giving your students the ability to learn from you 24/7, and that you cannot put a price on that. Just do it for your kids. Yes.
That's really amazing. Amazing. And like I think the way you've talked about it, everything today about Edpuzzle students, teachers, educators, I've understood this thing that children are not things to be molded, but people to be unfolded. And what we learn with pleasure, we never forget.
Yes, when it's an emotion attached to it, you'll remember.
Exactly. And I think let's see some of the new comments we've had. Love getting to listen live today. Brilliant ideas, insights, and a ton of fun too. I agree.
I love it.
Thank you for sharing your voice and inspiring. Love listening this engaging discussion and so many ideas. Manny is always fun. Hi, Mr. Curiel, being a peer teacher in my school, I had a quick question. Could you please tell me a way I can convince my school to use Edpuzzle?
Well, I mean, there's always one crazy teacher who's willing to do everything. You just need one teacher to buy into, utilizing the tool. When I tell teachers, you record your one lesson and then you put it through the program, and then they see the value on the analytics into how your students are reacting to this. It's a game changer. It's the fact that they have to experience Edpuzzle firsthand. This is when we're doing boot camps, like the training and certifications, teachers are like, oh my gosh, I can do this with my students. This is amazing. Because we train Edpuzzle on Edpuzzle, obviously, but they get the sense of what the student will feel. Like put them through the short video, asking them questions, pausing. They see a lot of value on it. So it will be a way to just like have an open class or do level 1 certification. And once they experience it, they're not going to want to go back. It's kind of like
absolutely
can't eat just one.
Right. And I guess he can show this podcast to his teacher, and she'll surely understand why we should use Edpuzzle. Because entire podcast is just about how Edpuzzle is able to engage students, bring out teachers, help them in professional development, and also encourage students to make their lessons as well in Edpuzzle.
Great conversation. Look at you. Like the time just flew by. We've been here for 40 minutes.
Oh, I didn't look at the time, to be honest.
Right? I didn't either. I'm like, oh my gosh, this was great.
That's amazing. So thank you so much, Mr. Manny, for taking out your time, coming on my podcast and talking all about Edpuzzle, how it can be used. And I'm sure people have been inspired to inculcate that in their classroom. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us live today. It's been amazing to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I love the comments. Thank you for guys for joining us Saturday morning for me, or it will be the afternoon, wherever you're at.
That's amazing. So thank you so much, Mr. Manny. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Bye.
I'll see you in the next episode. Till then, each one, teach 10. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.